In this episode, we examine a brutal tragedy that unfolded in Uromi, Edo State, where at least 16 men, believed to be Hausa hunters, were lynched and burned alive. We ask a deeper question. How does a country reach a point where burning fellow citizens becomes a public spectacle? What does it say about the system, about the chaos that Nigeria seems built to sustain? And how did we normalize this level of violence? This isn't just about Uromi. It's about a nation caught in a dangerous loop. A place where the government fuels division, where the people have become numb, and where every new tragedy threatens to a bigger war. It's a crisis of clarity, of leadership, of purpose, and of the very idea of Nigeria itself. So if you're asking what this all means for nation building, for coexistence, or for the future of the global economy, then this conversation is for you. Hold tight for the details. Welcome back. If you are new here, please subscribe and follow us on all NEAT social media platforms at neatcommunity.ng. Also, it will be nice if you can turn on the notification icon so you can get notified each time we upload new content. NEAT is an acronym for Nigerians Engineering Astounding Tomorrow. It is an initiative designed to bring together young and intelligent Nigerians who have what it takes to look beyond the challenges and divisions in the country and formulate a plan that would transform the nation and follow through with the plan. Great. Now, back to the topic of discussion. We're discussing the incident at Uromi in Edo State that reportedly led to the tragic and gruesome loss of the lives of at least 16 men believed to be Hausa hunters. This conversation is not aimed at highlighting the peculiarities of this event, considering that the gruesome loss of lives has been a recurrent theme in Nigeria for several decades. In fact, part of the purpose of this conversation is to use it as a point of reference for other similar incidents and re-echo the position that Nigerians need to take the task of nation-building seriously. One thing this event and many others show is that Nigerians have never come to terms with the fact that they live in a dysfunctional system designed to create chaos and confusion, a system that only helps to fuel more chaos, confusion, and hatred. According to the widely available version of the story, on March 27, 2025, a truck reportedly belonging to the Dangote group carrying a group of people was stopped by vigilantes. The reports say the vigilantes stopped the truck based on the notion that it was strange to see such a number of people in a flatbed company truck that was designed to convey goods, with not more than 2 passengers. The report suggests that things took a wrong turn when the vigilante, while searching the truck, discovered locally made guns along with other tools and dogs and an undisclosed number of people. It is widely speculated that the vigilante group suspected the mission of the men, and this triggered the next chain of events. It is not entirely clear what happened from there, but according to several versions of the story circulating online, it seems the vigilante left the scene upon the arrival of local mobs. Whether there was a deliberate collaboration between the mob and the vigilante, or if events took a chaotic turn, is unclear. What is clear, at least according to public news, is that the mob took over the scene, attacking the supposed hunters. They would go on to create additional piles of the barbaric scenes that sadly have become part of Nigerian art since 1966. Several reports suggest that the men, now identified as Hausa hunters, tried to convince the vigilante that they were not a threat or danger to anyone and were just returning from River State to Kano for the holidays. It is also reported that the mob did not buy into their story, holding on to the perception that they were either kidnappers or herdsmen, groups many had been suspecting of causing havoc to farms and villagers in the country. For several years now, Nigeria has become accustomed to scenes of violent clashes between herdsmen and farmers, with farmers in several communities often at the receiving end of very inhumane attacks. Other reports argue that the mobs were fully convinced that they were not a danger to anyone and just wanted to display barbarism. Until there is a proper inquiry and report on the full dynamics of the events, it is unlikely for anyone to say for sure what exactly triggered the actions of the mob. Whatever the thinking was, it is fair to say that it wasn't just about upholding a law or even self-preservation. It seemed more about erasure, going the self-established length to inflict as much harm and damage to another person for whatever personal reasons. Reports say the mob went on attacking the hunters with machetes and axes and burnt them with petrol and fire. Some even claim that some of the men were burnt alive. It was widely reported that Edo State Governor Monday Okpebholo called the killings barbaric and condemnable. He suspended the state's chief security officer and banned the vigilante groups involved. The DSS is also reported to have arrested 2 key suspects, with an additional 14 in custody as part of an ongoing investigation. President Bola Tinubu is reported to have condemned the act. The Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, along with several civil society groups, religious organizations, and other prominent groups also condemned the attack. But as they all spoke in solidarity, the feed from the internet painted a different narrative. Instead of a focus on condemning the act, several perspectives came into the mix. Some voices, from across the country, condemned the killings in the strongest possible terms. They called it barbaric, senseless, a betrayal of humanity. "How can people watch others burn alive and cheer?" one asked. "Is this who we are?" another replied. "This is not Nigeria, this is the collapse of our soul." But not all voices saw the same thing. Instead, as with many incidents that should receive collective condemnation, it became a point of reference for differences. Some quickly latched on to the reports to create a North versus South narrative, fuming as to why Hausa men could be targeted so viciously, simply for traveling through the South. Some described the act as genocidal. A few compared it to the killing of Deborah Samuel in Sokoto, pointing out that when the victim is Southern, Northerners protest. But when the victims are Northerners in the South, everyone becomes quiet. The killing of Deborah was another incident in 2022, when Deborah, a Christian, was reported to have been killed by Islamic youths for allegedly speaking ill of their prophet in a school group chat. There was also the angle of what is believed to be lackluster reporting of the incident by news outlets, as some accused the press of burying the story, downplaying it, replacing it with birthday ads, specifically those of the president. Some others also used the opportunity to claim defenders of the South, pushing back at several angles to the story. What were they doing with guns, some asked. In this kidnapping era, you expect us to just watch? The divide became clearer. What was a tragedy to some was suspicion to others. Some others took a more critical position on the issue, putting most of the blame not on the mob, but on the state. They pointed to a broken security system. "If the police had done their job, no one would have died," one post read. Others pointed to years of unchecked banditry, failures of past administrations, and a government that left people so scared they now act like judges and executioners. And yet, amid all this, some Nigerians just wanted one thing: justice. Public trials, transparency, consequences. No more silence. But others weren't so hopeful. One person said they'll arrest a few, make a speech, and it'll fade, like always. To him, this is the circle Nigeria under this governing structure is used to. Tragedy, instant condemnation, and then silence. Silence until there's another incident, either similar or worse. The news itself triggered concern that this could escalate into a North versus South attack or even a Christian versus Muslim debacle. Online, many called for revenge, while some others called for calm, arguing that 2 wrongs won't heal the country. Now, why are we talking about this incident? As mentioned earlier, it is an abominable act. But it must be said that this isn't an isolated incident. In fact, since the British handed over the colonial structure to the local administrators, they invented these barbaric killings as a means of coexistence. Now let's even assume these were known criminals. Is beating them to death and burning them the best course of action? How much more when there was no evidence of them committing any crime? How is it that after 60 years of coexisting in one entity, there hasn't been a better way of doing things for some people? Clearly, this is a problem of lack of clarity on the true dynamics of life. The forceful establishment of the Nigerian state and the distortion of religion contributed significantly to denying people the true knowledge about life. The resulting disconnect of how important the recognition and respect of diversity is essential to economic advancement of any society remains the main problem. Without this knowledge, people continue to see things from a warped lens that only helps to complicate what is already a dire situation. This is why mental shift is one critical project that must be embarked upon if Nigeria and indeed other nations were to contribute their quota to global advancement. But how do we achieve this mental shift if we fail to acknowledge the information before us? For example, how do we embark on the mental shift without realizing that there is no role for the Nigerian government in such an operation? While unfortunate, what many people do not realize is that the governing structure of Nigeria was not created to create a conducive environment for the inhabitants, but an avenue for a few people to latch on and control the resources in the territory. Instead of looking at how people can coexist, the government was created to expand tensions between people. Rather than focusing on identifying how to promote mutual understanding and respect, it only promoted things that would expand anarchy and violence between people, provided the anarchy does not come close to the doors of those benefiting from the resource control. In such an instance, where the entity that claims to be responsible for catering for the peace and harmony in society is essentially creating enmity and animosity between people, should anyone that cares still expect any good from the government? Whatever you think is the answer, we must not forget the reality on the ground. The fact is that the incident in Uromi is another reminder that thanks to the current governing system, a lot of people in the country do not see themselves as members of the same country. On the contrary, people have the mindset that Nigeria created a platform that makes them vulnerable to enemies and threats. As we had noted in one of our past videos, the economic performance of such a society cannot be the same as that of another society that does not feature the same. The notion that Nigeria can record any economic progress without addressing these issues, as many often claim, shows that they either do not understand economy or they are deliberately spreading false information. For example, amidst the ongoing situation, the office of the Nigerian president released a statement claiming that Nigerian foreign reserves increased to $23.11 billion from the $3.39 billion it was in 2023. In such a situation, there is hardly any hope that the government can rise and realize that the fire it ignited will continue to burn until someone puts it out. The onus, unfortunately, lies on those of us with special instincts to rise and put out this fire. If we do not rise to become that someone, it should be noted that the fire will continue to burn. And remember, we said in one of the videos that fire in Nigeria only provides a fuel that is sustaining what has also been argued to be an unstable global economy. If people do not rise to put out this fire in these nations, the global economy will continue to push the millions in the middle and lower classes to debt, and this will trigger a bigger collapse that won't even spare Nigeria. In summary, these incidents are not just news. They are not only a reminder of how barbaric people have become, but also of how numb and passive many of us have allowed ourselves to become. It is a wake-up call to join a platform with the purpose to begin the task of building a new society, a society that the next generation can be proud of. The NEAT initiative is a platform for you to be useful in this task of building a better nation. It provides an avenue for your voice, your thoughts, and your resources to contribute to building a better society and changing some of these evil trajectories. The fire will burn. It will burn institutions. It will burn communities. Unless we put it out, will you answer the call?